Hey fellow YouTubers, you know, I get a lot of requests from all these people that write in all the different comments. So one of the comments is, you know, what should I do? Should I use casting tackle? Should I use spinning tackle? Just what kind of complement rod should I use? And so today we're going to talk about how to master your casting technique, how to be a better caster with a casting rod. Let's go back to my boat dock. I'm going to show you how to do it. Today I'm going to really give you some fine points on casting, how to use a casting rod, how the proper way to use a casting rod. And a lot of people would say, hey, I'm a fly fisherman. Well, I don't need to learn that. Well, I'm a fly fisherman too, I love it. But I don't fly fish very much. I've won tournaments in the Keys fly fishing. I just love it to death, but only a few percent of the time do I ever go fly fishing. And they say, well, I use spinning tackle. All I need to do is use spinning tackle. And I'm saying, sure, if you live on the Great Lakes and all you ever do is go out there in the middle of Lake Erie and drop your little light lines in, that's fine. That's a good way of fishing, and I'm not gonna say anything about it. But I use light spinning tackle too. I use it for skipping on the docks. I use it in the clear water of Lake Mead. I use it all over the place for little Ned rigs and stuff like that I have on here now. Anyway, basically, I'm a bass fisherman. Basically, I'm a largemouth bass fisherman. And basically, I'm a power fisherman. And to do that properly, to be a power fisherman and to fish accurately with a casting rod, fishing the heavy cover that you find in the lily pads and under the boat docks and casting to the shoreline, you need to master the accuracy and power and technique of casting. That's a casting rod. It's more accurate. I can throw to the bank, just a perfect little cast right exactly to the bank. I have the power now with the big rod and heavy line. I can throw to that rock. I can make this perfect cast to the rock every time. And it's just a real accurate way of fishing. And it has more power and more accuracy. And believe it or not, it has plenty of distance. So there's a lot of advantages with casting, but mainly the accuracy involved and the power involved of a good casting rod is just paramount. Okay, let me show you how I cast. Let me first of all talk about setting the reel in the proper way. Well, there's a couple adjustments on the reel I want to show you. The first adjustment I want to show you is this little adjustment on the right hand side with the spool. I just barely turn it to the right until it just doesn't stop anymore. Okay, it stops and it just barely goes out. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is I want to pull this little side plate off. I want to turn the side plate just a little ways, and I want to put some of the little magnetic drags in position. Right now there's 2 of them out. Let's start with 4 of them out. Let's have 4 of these little magnetic drags out of 6. 4 of them are engaged. It means it's going to inhibit the cast. It's not going to go quite as far, but you won't need as much thumb pressure. The third thing is you have to keep thumb pressure 100% of the time. Keep the thumb pressure on the reel. Okay, to do that, I take and load the rod up and cast it out there. Now let me tell you about spinning versus casting. Spinning, you don't load the rod up and cast the same way because you cast it more directed at the target. With casting, you have to let it go. After you load the rod up, you let it go before you let a spinning rod go. So as it's back here, you kind of let it go and pretend like you're throwing it over a wall. Pretend like it's a 10-foot wall. And so what I like to do is I like to load the rod up. I hold it kind of with 2 hands like this, load the rod up, and again, I'm kind of pretending like I'm throwing over a wall. I'm throwing high. The reel spool never leaves my thumb. It always touches my thumb. Now, I didn't go very far because I had a lot of tension on the line. I had 4 of those little drag buttons on, and I had the drag a little bit tight. So let's go into the side of the reel right here. Let's loosen it up again. Let's just put 2 of them out. Okay, I put now only 2 of those magnetic things are out, so that's 2 out of 4. And then on this drag part here, this is just friction on the spool thing. Let's get that so it just barely kind of goes out. Okay, now again, I'm going to hold it with 2 hands and watch my thumb. It never comes off that spool. It stays on the spool the whole time. Nice little 30 or 40 foot cast. I loaded the rod, snapped it forward, went over the wall. Okay, that's a really good deal. I get this reel all set up. It's my light casting reel for, say, a little plug. Now let's talk about some power fishing. Let's talk about the kind of fishing I really like. Let's talk about throwing to the bank. Let's talk about throwing to the logs. Let's talk about taking this spinnerbait, for example. a nice heavy duty spinner baits. And now I can turn around, I can make a little cast of that rock just as perfect and just as accurate as possible. Boy, what a deal. I got a big powerful rod. I got a heavy duty line, much heavier line I had with spinning tackle. I had a much more accurate cast because I had that thumb in control the whole time. And I just have much more control over my cast with the casting rod and by the use of that thumb than I did with that spinning rod. Now, let's adjust this rod. Well, again, I have this one adjusted for 2 deals. That's the standard kind of thing. I'll just come out and look at the mag things in the back, and I'll put 2 of these out. 1, 2. Okay, 2 of them are out. Kind of loosen the little drag up. Now it's kind of pretty much ready to go. To watch this cast. Look how far I can go. I can go a million miles with it. I can go a long ways with it. Again, I can power fishing. I can hold it in my stomach side like this. I can reel it along just as nice as possible, and I can really set the hook and really power into them because I have a big heavy rod, big heavy line, and a big casting rod. Okay, now that's just, I said I'm a power fisherman. Power fishing involves a lot of things. Let's take this frog for example. Now, frog fishing is kind of a whole different ballgame. Frog fishing, I'm using heavy braid, for example. I'm using a 65-pound braid. I'm throwing it into the lily pads. I have a big heavy rod. It's a heavier action rod. It's 7.4, and it's like what I call a flipping stick. It's what I call heavy action. I can throw it now. I can hold it. Notice I have a big cushion button into my side. I can now throw it to the lily pads. They're not any lily pads. I throw it to the lily pad, and now I can put the rod in my side. I got all the power in the world. Now as that big 5 or 6 or 7 pound monster bass hits, I can just jerk them right out of there. I got 65-pound test line. I'm power fishing. I can get that fish out. But again, with a casting rod, you have the accuracy and the power and the ability to cast heavy line. Okay, now let's take one of my favorite rods of all times. Favorite combination, that's a plastic worm. Okay, here's a plastic worm. Here's a Cinco. Here is a 297. No, it's not the 297. This is actually a red metal. This is a, let's see, what is this? Green pumpkin, red flake, whatever. It's a good worm. Dark color. I have an 1/8 of an ounce weight. A little bobber stopper on the line. I've even colored the line a little dark so that it's less visible with that. Okay. And now I'm ready for a good accurate cast to say some shoreline cover. Okay, now I can get really accurate with this thing. I can throw it right to the base of something, and now with that 50-pound braid or 30-pound braid or 20-pound braid, I got the ability to really bust them out of there. I got that heavy ability, and with this 6.5-foot medium action rod, I have a lot of meat here, and I can really set the hook. And I don't have, it's not quite the power fishing that I just showed you with the frog rod, but it's still a nice formidable rod. It's perfect for worm fishing. So much of my bass fishing is worm fishing. I need that good accurate cast to that ambush point, throwing that worm into the shadow of that tree, underneath that boat dock, by those rocks, by those logs. There's so much application, so many applications for a plastic worm. It is by far the most versatile lure that you can use for bass fishing. So that's not all of my compliments. I use big tackle like this. Let me show you another rod. The casting rod, power fishing at its finest. We're talking about 65-pound braid. We're talking about a flipping stick that's 7.5 feet long, heavy duty. We're talking a big cushion button that you put in your side. Now we're talking about a jig that you throw into the thickest cover you can find. You throw it into a bunch of logs a beaver have cut down. You throw it underneath a boat dock. You throw it in the center of a bunch of lily pads. You throw it in the worst, heaviest cover that you could possibly find. And you put the rod down in your stomach or on your side, but I like it in my stomach, and just kind of get it over those little places, drop it through the limbs, drop it down through the grass, drop it around, and just keep my rod low, ready to set the hook. And that's the way we catch here in South Florida. Our biggest fish ever is flipping and pitching with casting tackle. Again, casting tackle has so much more versatility than just say spinning tackle. Even though I use spinning tackle, it's a great way of fishing. Casting tackle is a better way. Learn how to use it and you'll be a better fisherman.